Steel Curtain Network.
Touchdown! Touchdown para Calvin Austin! El Monte Washington es arma. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? DJ Watt!
What is going on, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another postgame show. It's the final postgame show of the 2024-2025 Pittsburgh Steelers season. The season ends in a dud, losing 28-14, and I don't think that final score was even indicative of how lopsided this game was. And again, season is over, but we're going to talk about it. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. What's up, Dave? How's it going?
It's going. It's funny because I sent you a message earlier today. I'm like, I actually woke up feeling really good about some stuff, just convincing myself of some things. Big Brosco called me because of something going on, family-wise, not a big, just something about family, not about Steelers. And I said, I'm actually feeling all right about this. He says, let me know how soon that goes away. Well, I didn't let him know. It went away before kickoff, man. Even when they win the toss and screw that up, it's like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get going with this? So it started before the foot made it to the ball, and it's like, I already don't like the way this is headed. So it only got worse from there.
Bryan Davis, what's up?
Yeah, I felt the same way Dave did, because if you go ahead and you kick off and you shut them down there, you have at least a chance. But they go ahead and you blow it, and then they're more fired up because they shut you down. And it was just the better team won today, and that's the bottom line. But I'm demoralized. It's really hard. Jeff, did you use the phrase rinse and repeat on I don't know whether it was on the air or beforehand?
No, before we hit record.
Yeah, it's exactly what that is. And it's getting tough. But when you love, you don't go away.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about loyalty and I said this earlier today on Twitter. I said, let's try to stay positive today. If they lose, we'll have an entire offseason to moan and complain.
Yep.
I said, and yes, I realize this is an abusive and dysfunctional relationship that we have with the Steelers. And this just epitomizes that. They keep hurting us and we keep coming back because we keep thinking something will change. And yet nothing really ever changes. Steelers, again, at one point we're trailing 21-0. That trend continues. They escaped the first quarter, only trailing 7-0. And I'm thinking, okay, they kind of got over that proverbial hump. And then the second quarter, they could do nothing offensively. The defense, I'll say it right now, my knee-jerk reaction is this defense sucks and it shouldn't suck. And so the question is, why does it suck? I think we're going to talk about that, but we have some super chats pouring in, and we're going to get to each and every one of them. Last week, Dave and I spent the entire first half
just doing
super chats, so we'll see if that continues. Sean Manahan gives us $5, says Russell Wilson ain't it. Need a quarterback who can see the whole field. I think that it's safe to say that we saw the good and the bad of Russell Wilson, and I think it's safe to say that even Mike Tomlin said hardly nothing in his post-game press conference, but it didn't sound like he was thrilled with either quarterback as the answer. I don't know. I don't think Russell Wilson comes back next year. Do you guys?
No, not at all.
All right. Tyler W.
I don't think it's Russ's decision. I think it should be the Steelers' decision.
Well, yeah. Tyler W. gives us $5. Says, thank you for being here for us all season. I'm not going to let my disappointment with the Steelers get in the way of my thankfulness for Steel Curtain Network. Thank you, Tyler. We appreciate it. You've been here. You're one of the loyal ones that come into every single show. Yep. Always respectful. Do it the right way. We appreciate you as much as you appreciate us. Thank you very much. Kyle Smith gives us $5. Incredible that a 13-year vet cannot read a football field. Had Pickens open and threw to Calvin Austin in quadruple coverage. Cannot be back. Clean house. Clean house will probably be a term we hear a lot of on this post-game show, and it just depends on what your definition of cleaning house is, and it's going to be unique to every individual. Brandon Diaz gives us $4.99. Says, I'm typically not on the fire train, but it's time to clean house. There you go. Similar to the Eagles and Reed, we change forever till death goes Steelers. Yeah. But when Andy Reid was let go with the Eagles, it was it was a similar situation. It wasn't that he was having really horrible losing seasons. I don't know. Let's go to Punk Drummer, $9.99 tip. Thank you very much. He said the whole game I thought, well, hey, at least I got Steel Curtain Network. They got to spend money on this O-line this offseason. That's going to be tough. The offensive line, and we'll have all offseason to address some of this stuff. I mean, they did invest heavily the last 2 drafts with first-round picks in Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. Dan Moore's likely gone. James Daniels coming off a ruptured Achilles, likely gone. You have your Rock and Zach Frazier. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sayamalu has 1 year left on his deal, correct?
He does.
Yes.
That's what I thought. So he'll be back. So maybe it just depends on left tackle. Is Broderick Jones that guy? I don't know. Here we go. Let's go with Quentin Shelby. Gives us $5. Says, wow, this performance was so embarrassing. When it's time to make changes, something has to be done. First thing is the staff. All right, well, let's talk about it, guys. If let's assume that Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere, who leaves on the staff? Like everyone says, clean house. Get rid of this guy or whatever. Who do you get rid of, Dave?
Well, sometimes it's hard to figure out because what you really need to look at is whose contract is up. Because as much as people want coaches to be fired, just honestly, there's nothing wrong with wanting it, and I'm not saying you're wrong. But you also have to think about how the Steelers have handled stuff. My goodness, they didn't want Matt Canada, but they kept bringing him back because he was under contract because they wouldn't want to fire someone and pay them to not be there. But I think Pat Meyer, he's been here 3 years, so I would assume he's at the end of his.
I heard he just deal for this season. I heard he just signed a new deal before this season.
Pat Meyer. I mean, if they did, it wasn't really announced because that's one that I would like to see replaced. I mean, you have all these young offensive linemen, and you're trying to develop them in a style that is just so weird, and it's not doing them any favors. That's the one I like to see the most. Is Terrell Austin also at the end of his contract?
I thought he signed a new deal.
I mean, I don't. That's the thing. It's so hard to find out what the contracts actually are.
Yeah.
Like last year when the Steelers had a new wide receivers coach, we didn't even realize they had the deal was up with the old one. That they were, and they didn't bring him back. It's so hush hush. So if you want to look at it from that aspect, it's really hard. But regardless, I would say if you told me to pick one coach I would like replaced, I'm going offensive line first and foremost, with the whole understanding of we know the contract status of the head coach, regardless of whether or not a parting of ways would be in the best interest of both sides. Chances are that's not going to happen unless one, there's a trade, which we don't even want to that one plenty of time talking about that, or two, Coach Tomlin decides he wants to hang it up for a little bit.
What do you think, Brian?
I was very disappointed in Mike Tomlin in the post-game press conference because, and the reason I was sure he was down on the offense, he was glaringly down on the offense. He was not down on the defense. When they was asked about giving up all those yards, especially rushing, he threw it back to it's not conductive with the offense and put it back on the offense. He completely hedged that. And, I do a lot of defending, but come on. It was a terrible team effort tonight. The defense was horrendous. The offense wasn't much better, but I'm the guy that wants to see Terrell Austin go. I'm kind of done with Terrell Austin. They play so soft. My gosh, the Justice Hill. There were 10 yards on so much of a cushion. Lamar Jackson has improved as a passer, but my gosh, they made him look like the king of the world tonight.
Yeah, and I think it was Kevin Smith, here from Steel Curtain Network, said it seems like the Steelers have never they were playing in the first half like they've never seen that simple zone read option before. I mean, they've run this with every iteration of a Lamar Jackson offense, different running back, but still, it's like they just didn't know what to do, and they're just getting gashed. Nonetheless, let's keep it rolling. Claude Bishop gives us $5. Said, I can't imagine any Steeler fans who want Tomlin and his coaches back after this latest embarrassment. Pathetic. Thank you for the tip, Claude. Appreciate it. Justin Gall, man, he must have hit another parlay. He gives $99.99. Said, I want to express my sincere gratitude for you guys always being there, especially over the last 5 weeks filled with heartache and frustration while we try to manage a toxic relationship with a football team that we have no control over. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Justin, for that very generous tip. We do appreciate it and your kind words. Absolutely. Nicholas Gabriel gives us $5. Says, I've never been for the full rebuild, but this is where I draw the line. Enough of being just good enough to make the playoffs. Rip it down to the studs. Yikes. All right, let's go to Colton. Colton Lipscomb gives us $10. Says, Coach T is the most unprepared, talent-wasting coach ever. Let's stop with the Band-Aids. He needs to go. Bend, but don't break. Gents, he broke. When do we do it? When do we do and call it insanity? Tomlin is the problem.
Hold up a second.
What's up?
Tonight, with the defense doing what they did, I mean, how embarrassing is it to have, was it a 13 or 14, whatever, 13-play drive where every single one
13,
was a rush? Now, they did drop back to pass twice. I know it was at least twice, where then he took off. But everyone was a run, and you let them go the whole way down the field and scored a touchdown. Okay. You do have the talent on this defense. That's why it's paid more. You don't have, other than, like I said, other than Keanu Benton, Joey Porter Jr., you don't have guys on rookie contracts that are the cheaper guys. That's why you have to pay the guys that you do, because you haven't done it that way. Peyton Wilson's another one that's got a lot of playing time and can really help. But the defense did not get it done. They really didn't. Now, you can also really complain about the offense, but the offense doesn't have talent. Honestly, I keep saying it. George Pickens is probably the only player you can make an argument for from this Steelers offense that could start on the Ravens offense. And I don't know if they'd want his attitude out there. No one else is good enough to start on that offense. It goes to show you night and day offense, the Steelers offense. No, granted, I think the Ravens offenses might be the very best the NFL has to offer right now, but they got nobody. But the thing is, to know that the defense is being an issue when you do have the talent there, it's not like they're wasting offensive talent. They're just not, they're not maximizing what they have either when they don't have much. So just to put it out there, they don't have all this offensive talent, but they do have some guys that could develop into it that are still pretty young.
I will say this, Terrell Lawson, I know his name's been brought up and it's going to be brought up. I am very bullish on him because I don't think it's his scheme. I think it's Mike Tomlin. I think it's Mike Tomlin's defense.
But that's what you get with every head coach that's either defensive or offensive.
No,
it's Andy Reid's scheme. It's not
right?
Matt Nagy's.
Exactly. So for me, it's like, okay, well, Terrell Austin's just a figurehead then. So if you fire Terrell Austin, you bring in someone else, it's going to be the same crap. It's just going to be a different coordinator.
You really want to know who doesn't have that? The Baltimore Ravens, because John Harbaugh is a special teams coach.
Right.
So his offensive coordinator is his offensive coordinator. His defensive coordinator is his defensive coordinator. But you look around the league, otherwise that's really how it is. Yeah. But you're right. You're exactly right. It's not like it's unusual.
Right. But people that are saying, like, get rid of Terrell Austin, if Tomlin stays, I don't think anything changes. So keep that in mind. Let's go to 27 Sin City. Gives us $10. Says Tomlin will not be fired. I repeat, not fired. But there's a possible resignation to hope for. Brian, you think he steps away?
Yeah. No, I never think he's going to step away. It's his job until he wants to leave, and that's what has been established. That's not me saying it. That's not what I want. For them to trade him, they're not going to fire the guy. There's no way they're going to fire him. It would be hard enough to think that they would even trade him. I don't think they're going to trade him at this point, but I would be listening to, I talked about this the other day before they lost. I would be listening to any phone call right now. If somebody's dangling two number one picks and the other teams seem to feel that he could be an answer and they would snap him up. And it's true. But I'm almost feeling like it's stale here in Pittsburgh. And I would not be sad if they gave him the gold watch and thanks for the memories. And, but we're trading to Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Isaac Aguilera gives us $5. His was a standard season, gents. On to the draft. Thanks for the coverage every week. Thank you, Isaac. He's one of the OGs. Been with us a very long time. Back to the behind the steel curtain days. Andrew Palladino, my buddy from West Virginia, gives us $10. Says when you have NFL broadcasters Aikman and Herbstreit in back-to-back weeks drawing serious criticisms about effort or fight in the Steelers' most important unit, that's when it's time. It's time. In the first
These are
half,
all great points.
They are. In the first half, I mean, let's call a spade. I have been a Minkah Fitzpatrick's backer. He's still doing his job. His effort, at least in the first half, was putrid. There were plays where he was jogging around. Is he hurt? I don't know. If he is, don't put him out there if he's going to play like that. And he wasn't the only one. I mean, you could count on one hand how many players on that defense were giving 100% effort every single snap. It looked like guys were just taking plays off, that they were making business decisions. You know, kudos to Peyton Wilson, a rookie who's like, I'm not taking a freaking second off. He's flying around. Like Landon Roberts, we know what he brings to the table. TJ Watt hurts his elbow. He's still out there in a brace trying his best. Cam Hayward never gives up. But my gosh, some of these guys, it was infuriating. Absolutely infuriating.
Do you realize, isn't this the second straight week that TJ Watt doesn't end up in the stat sheet at all?
Did he not even register a tackle?
I don't think he did.
Let me look real quick.
I thought he was involved in that sack.
And he didn't get a credit for it. He was a late. Came in late.
That went to Highsmith.
Oh my gosh, he's not even on the stat sheet.
Not even on the stat sheet.
That's tough to defend, Dave.
Yeah.
This whole team is tough.
I was just putting it out there. I mean, I wore the jersey. I got it for Christmas. I've worn it a couple weeks in a row, and it has not been good. Maybe I need to get my fat self out of this jersey in order to make it turn around. But
man,
yeah.
Anyways, let's get a cast. Gives us $9.99. Said it hurt to watch, but 21-0. I still had hope. The worst part of the loss is that we won't see Steelers football for 8 months, but at least we have SCN. Grateful for y'all and the daily content. Thank you all very much. I really hope that everyone we must have 1,000 people watching right now. I hope that everyone realizes that wherever you're watching this, we're so much more than what you're seeing right now or hearing right now. We have steelcurtainnetwork.com, the website. We are going to get a facelift at some point. My God, we're going to, I swear.
I think Jeff's been jerking. I think he sent me a fake website that it was supposed to be. What was
I
that?
swear it's going to look really good.
Oh my goodness.
I swear it's going to look really good. It's just not for the off season, I guess. But anyways, we have all of our podcasts that are not here on YouTube or any other platform. So you got to check us out wherever you get your podcasts just by searching Steel Curtain Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, so much more. So check us out there. Let's go to Rob Chapman. It says gives us $4.99. Says thanks guys for everything you do all year. Can we pick up Derrick Henry as a free agent? I don't think Derrick Henry is a free agent.
He's on a 2-year deal.
I was going to say, I thought so. Wilson Pava gives us $4.99. Says, so long as we have DC Austin and no franchise quarterback, this is who we are. We need Munchak and a new defense, trade some vets, Minkah. That's what he writes, not me. And get young and quick. I said this in an article, and I said it on a podcast earlier in the week. At this point in time, I'm taking calls on anybody. Anybody. Someone calls for TJ Watt. How much are you giving up? That's my question. So I hate to say that because I love TJ Watt, but at the same time, if a king's ransom's on the table,
you just want my jersey to be invaluable. That's what it is. I haven't got a jersey for years.
Same with me.
I'm just saying. Bryan hasn't gotten a jersey,
in hours.
Yeah, but it's like, well, Minkah's the same way. If someone calls and says, "Hey, what would it take to get Minkah Fitzpatrick?"
Mm-hmm.
What are you willing to offer? I doubt he draws a first, but if you draw a second and a third or something like that, I mean, do you make that deal? I don't know. Maybe, Devontae KZ's a free agent. We'll see. I don't know.
Yes.
It's not that the Steelers don't have pieces that they could work around, but I understand people that are saying burn it all down. Their needs. They keep ramming their head into the wall, doing the same thing over and over again. And you're sitting 9-8, 10-7, not putting yourself in a very favorable matchup in the postseason, which they had a great opportunity to do several weeks ago, and they did not. And that's why they're one and done, because they didn't put themselves in a better spot. And they just weren't playing very good anymore. And yeah, sorry, go ahead and read it again.
Okay. No, it's okay. Nebby58 gives us $4.99. Says Steelers are becoming the Pirates if they're penny pinching that hard. Tomlin is Marvin Lewis. Art too should be embarrassed. I will agree. Like Dave, when you were talking about the coaches and the salaries, and they don't want to pay a coach not to coach, I get it. Your organization is valued at over $1 billion.
Yeah.
So if you have to pay a coach that's hurting the product on the field to go away, you pay the coach to go away, because it's what's it about? Is it about, well, I got to make sure we're bringing in a profit margin, or if you realize that you'll bring in way more of a profit margin if you actually win football games, playoff games, and stuff like that. I don't know.
You know what, Jeff? Can I say something on that?
Sure.
There is talk that some teams are actually interested in bringing Bill Belichick back in. And to do that, you've got to pay $10 million. Now, if you wait until July, you only have to pay $1 million. There's teams that are like, we will pay $10 million if that's the guy we want. So why can't you pay money to get rid of the problem that you have?
I don't know. I mean, hell, look at what it took for them to finally fire Matt Canada.
A lot.
It took a lot. It took a lot.
lot.
Punk Drummer gives us another $9.99. Said Yin's opinion, what's the biggest need outside of quarterback? That's
backup quarterback. That's how important the position is.
Hey,
it's really all about the quarterback. It really
for those
is.
that don't know, go to my Twitter feed right now, and I retweeted, or I tweeted out our article, which is the 2025 Steelers free agents. It'll be on SteelCurtainNetwork.com tomorrow. I'll put it back up there, and I want y'all to understand this: that as of the season ending, the Steelers have 0 quarterbacks under contract for 2025. Kyle Allen, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, all free agents. This is going to be a dicey offseason. We'll put it.
I mean, it's not like really the backup quarterback, but it's just the quarterback position is that important. It really is. And, some people put it in the live chat earlier that, it's really hard to really get over the hump without a franchise quarterback. I mean, how many times have the Steelers been to a Super Bowl without a franchise quarterback? Once.
Neil O'Donnell? Yeah.
All
right. Tyler W gives us another $5. Says, big picture point, it's tough to win the division or in the playoffs with the third best quarterback. Can't bank on the Bengals and Ravens sucking and win by default. Yeah.
Unless your defense is that good, and they haven't been.
Not. Todd Williams gives us $4.99. Says, highest paid defense in the league, consistent 90-plus yard touchdown drives. Will anybody be held accountable?
Once they start drafting more defenders, they're not going to be the highest paid defense in the league. It's because they have so few draft picks that are taking up those roster spots. But you're right. It's going to cycle through. It's just towards the end of that. But there's nothing wrong. I mean, that's exactly right. If you're banking on your defense being so good, then you can't do those kind of things.
Yeah. Brian, any thoughts on anything so far?
I'm tired of the stubbornness, and this is a very stubborn-minded foundation that they have right now.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Bradley Stone gives us $4.99. Says, since 2016, players and coaches have changed. He's the only consistent factor. Tomlin needs to be held responsible. His coaching style doesn't work. Okay, fair enough.
Well, I mean, especially in December football and later.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Steeler Nation 412 gives us $5. Says Fields QB1 2025 with the new OC. Few more new wide receivers like a Garrett Wilson, and to run a Baltimore type offense. I will say that if they do decide to hitch their wagon to Fields, they do need a coordinator that can install an offense like what the Ravens do. I don't think Arthur Smith is that guy, if I'm being honest. That's if they're going to go down that route. I don't think you turn Justin Fields into a pocket passer anytime soon. Sean Manahan gives us a $5 tip. Says Tomlin has a no-trade clause. Can't just trade him willy-nilly. Is that true? He has a no-trade clause?
Not that I knew of.
It's so hard to find out what's actually in contracts for coaches versus players.
Yeah. It's possible. It is possible.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Jason Atkins gives us $5. Says it just sucks as fans. We out our heart and give out our heart and souls in this team just to have the same results every year. I want to change so bad. The defense lost this. Yeah, it is tough, and I think every fan kind of has a real not a tipping point, but a realization point where they realize, holy crap, like, why am I getting so pissed off about something I have no control over? For me, it was the story I tried to rip off in the winter after the loss to the Broncos when they got T-bowed. I tried to rip off a mailbox cover. I almost ripped the mailbox out of the ground. I was like, I think this is a little much.
Oh, after the Tebow game, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember driving past and saying, I didn't even know you yet. I'm like, what happened to their mailbox?
It was not noticeable. Tom Plays Games gives us $10. Says change is needed because the standard is now substandard. Next week is going to be interesting. I hope Cam has one more year in him and it can be worth it. Bus style. Thanks for another season, fellas. Thank you, Tom. I was really hoping the tip would get above $10 and it just never did. That's unfortunate. Oral Richards gives us $10. Says no matter the coach, we will not win without a qualified quarterback. See Jimmy Johnson, Bill Belichick, and McVay. Too much money on defense with little to show. Offensive guard Minka and Queen, nothing cut and move one or reduce. I'm not OG. Am I missing something? I don't know.
Offensive guard.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Nothing cut and move one. Yeah.
Unless OG's Cam Hayward.
Maybe. Steeler Nation 412 gives us $2. Is Ben Johnson offensive minded? So, talking about offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions as a head coach. So again, we can't be talking about bringing him in with Mike Tomlin still, unless he leaves, unless Mike Tomlin says I'm resigning and I don't want to coach anymore. I'm going to step down, in which case the Steelers could, absolutely be in the mix for some of these big name guys that are still coaching. Let's go to Jorge Larrea, gives us $1.99. Said, did Pickens do enough to get paid? I don't think George Pickens wants to come back. I think he's literally doing a tour of campaigning. You saw him interrupt the Netflix post game to dap up Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Someone said on Twitter that it was Derrick Henry's interview that he interrupted trying to get. The dude's trying to get.
He was standing there in the background when Lamar and James Pierre were exchanging jerseys, which
they're cousins. By the way.
I don't have a problem with that.
Everyone's freaking out. I'm like, they are family, and maybe they could have done it at a different time, but still, I don't know. Brian, any thoughts on that?
Oh my goodness.
George Pickens getting paid.
I like George Pickens' game today. I really did. Was the push off needed? The first one? I thought the second one wasn't bad. I almost feel like he would have caught that ball anyway. I would love to. I hate the attitude, but I wonder what's pushing him to have this attitude, because the mediocrity might be seen by George Pickens. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if you're going to throw a lot of money at him right now, but I don't know who you're throwing money at. I don't think Najee wants to come back.
No.
Seriously, this is not a destination. If this keeps on happening, nobody's going to be interested in coming back.
Yeah. What are you signing up for? A coach that says all the right things, but can't get the job done when it matters most. So, Oral Richard gives us another.
It was literally the exact same result as last year.
Yep.
10-7 out in the first round.
Oral Richards, $10 says, hopefully Omar Khan is not a sentimental fool and move on from high-priced players. TJ Minka needs quarterback, cornerback, 2 wide receivers, offensive tackle, offensive guard, get young on defense.
They might be all right at tackle with Fautanu coming back. Broderick Jones really was improving as the season went on. And I think if you move him the other side, I don't want to think about it. I want to see it, what happens when he was, because the one game he played there in his first game last year where he was pretty good. But
I don't think that Omar Khan is as they put it, sentimental, especially with players he didn't draft. We've seen that. So we'll see how that works out. Wilson Pavagas is $4.99. So Tomlin is still a Hall of Fame head coach. He just needs to be more CEO and less defensive coordinator. Owners are stubborn until they're patient. Blessing is a blessing and a curse. All right. Lastly, let's go to Nicholas Gabriel. Gives us $2. His time for optimism is over. Time for realism. Okay.
Can I bring up something realism-wise?
Yeah, go for it.
How bad was the timeout on 3rd and 2 at the end of the first half?
I get why he did it, but I didn't agree with it.
And 2, that was the problem. They needed 2 yards for a first down. If it's 5, I could maybe see it. But they were willing to just let it go. And as soon as the Steelers called the timeout, I just said, I'm like, the Ravens are going to convert and they're going to get points. And they got the worst kind of points. And to me, that's what killed everything from the first half and made it unattainable for the entire second half.
I thought not going for it on 4th and inches was another dastardly move. When you
Well, look how everyone told him how wrong he was when he did it last week. Everyone said, "Oh, it was such a terrible decision. They should have just punted."
I didn't mind the decision. I minded what they did.
That's what I agree too.
Get Justin Fields out. Get Justin Fields out there and run a quarterback sneak. And get the 2 inches.
But at least this one, you could. I mean, honestly, they got a favorable spot for it to be that short. When he was probably a full yard short, and they really needed a foot. Yeah.
Well, with Pat, that play with Pat, I thought it was close enough they could have measured.
No, I think they spotted it, but his knee was actually down before he even rolled that far.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. And then Tyler W. also adds in with $2. That bad PI call was a minimum of 10-point swing. I thought that was a very soft call. And your brother Rich even hit me up on Twitter and said it was not a soft call. Like that was he was making it like it was egregious. I did not think it was. I've seen receivers do worse and not get flagged.
No, that was a flag. That was a flag. The thing is, he didn't need to do it. That's the thing. He didn't even. To me, it looked like the defender was going to fall down anyway. The fact that George Pickens put his hands on him, and you could see he put out just enough. He extended just enough to change where their body position was. To me, that was all day. If that play wouldn't have been called offensive pass interference with somebody doing that to the Steelers, I would have been irate.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, well, we're about the halfway point, so this is like what we did last week. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back after the break, we're going to kind of dissect this game as much as we don't want to, down by the numbers, look at the box score, talk about it, offense and defense, and then we're going to move on into, draft talk. All right, we'll be right back. If you're watching live on any platform, we're not going anywhere. Stay tuned. Be right back. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Thank you all for all the tips. We do really appreciate it. And thank you all for your patience as we all vent in our own way. This is therapeutic for all of us, including the 3 of us on the screen or in your ears right now. Let's talk about the box score. Let's break it down on the offensive side of the ball. Russell Wilson, he goes 20 of 29 for 270 yards and 9.3 average, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, was sacked 4 times for a rating of 121.3. In terms of quarterback hits, the Ravens had 7. Let's just start with Russ in general. Dave, what do you think about Russ's game?
Go to Brian for just a second.
Okay, Brian, I'm going to go for you for a second.
The stats are inflated. They're nice, but it wasn't a winning performance. I hate that he's sacked 4 times and quarterback hit 7 times, but still there was some ugliness there, and a lot of people were going to that 4th down pass into triple coverage, and that's not a good decision. So wasn't the right guy tonight.
Okay, Dave?
Yep, sorry, I had to sneeze. Yeah, it was he didn't seem comfortable. I mean, they were pointing out on the broadcast about his feet not being, the antsy feet and everything else, even though you had the numbers. I mean, and to me, those numbers are inflated when the second half, where they were doing basically completely passing. I mean, I'm just out of curiosity, how many times did the Steelers run the ball in the second half? 4. So that gets inflated a little bit, but to me, it was nice to see the 2 scoring drives. It just wasn't enough of seeing stuff like that. I can't just say, oh, everything was fine from the second half and completely ignore the disaster and dumpster fire that was the first half.
Yeah, I mean, they had 60 yards of offense in the first half and never once had a play in Baltimore territory. I mean, think about that. Now, a lot of that was also contingent of the time of possession. So when the Steelers elected to take the ball to start the game, I was like, okay, I get it. You're trying to prevent the first half collapse, which we've seen in the postseason. And the offense possesses the ball, gets a first down. They end up flipping the field. You're thinking, okay, like it's not points, but it's something. And then the defense just gives up these long time consuming drives, and then the offense goes into a lull. I think that with Russell Wilson, you just see his limitations at this point in his career. He's not mobile enough. He can't see the field well enough. I don't think there's a system out there that fits Russell Wilson at this stage in his career. And so a lot of people are going to want to know, like, well, did they bring him back? I don't bring him back unless he says I'll come back to be a backup or something like that. But I just think it happens to everyone at every point in their career. You just realize they don't have it anymore. So I think that for me, Russell Wilson didn't play a horrible game, threw some really great passes in this game. The pass to Calvin Austin was a good throw. Mike Williams had a nice throw to him. George Pickens, he threw a couple really nice passes to him, but it's just not enough. And I think we all see that. Now let's talk about the offensive line, because we talked about he was sacked 4 times, quarterback hit 7. What did you think about pass protection in this game? Because let's not forget, Dan Moore left the game with an ankle injury, did not return. Calvin Anderson, who just came off of the 21-day or just came off of IR. What do you think about pass pro? Dave, we'll start with you.
Out of many problems that the Steelers had, that one was further down the list. It's not that it was great, but there was a lot of other things that were a bigger issue than the pass protection. It wasn't overly consistent. They didn't handle stunts well at times. Sometimes the Ravens just brought a lot. But it wasn't in my top 3 issues with this game offensively.
Brian?
I put it a little higher up the list. I thought that's 4 sacks, 7 hits. That's 11 times. That's way too much. The Steelers defense didn't even have anything close to that. Reduce that a little bit, and you might have another 7 in there. You might have a 7 in the first half, and that game could have been 14-7 at halftime. It could have been. And then you have a ball game and you have a team in it. Even with a hope and everything, when they scored 21, everything was messed up. But the fact that you kept on getting Russell Wilson hit, and Russell Wilson was not having the best game of his life anyways, that was just a combination for futility.
And this team in the 5-game losing streak that ended the season, they just never could get it all together at the same time. So even when you think about the drive, this drive ended I think they ended actually in the 4th down turnover on downs. They're moving the ball. They get a conversion. You're thinking, all right, they're actually going to put up something. What did they get? Najee Harris, false start. And then they surrender a sack when Broderick Jones gets beat like a turnstile on the left side and right side if you're the offensive, but still you understand what I'm saying. And then all of a sudden you have to check it down to Van Jefferson to get in a manageable 4th and 16. They just could never put it all together. And just every now and then the offensive line would have those issues. Dan Moore likely played his last snap in a black and gold jersey. He hits a free agent market after the season. Will probably get paid a lot of money. I don't know. But let's talk about the running game, because that was really stellar for the Steelers. And I say that sarcastically because they rushed for 29 total yards, 11 carries, 29 yards, a 2.6 yard average. Najee Harris led the way, 6 carries on 17 yards. Jalen Warren, 2 carries for 6. And Russell Wilson, 3 for 6. This was more game plan than anything else, like execution. Dave, what do you think about the running game?
There wasn't one. And here's, you might have thought that they could effectively run the ball because they were looking to pass first. They weren't coming out and just running for the sake of running. So for that reason, I kind of like what they were doing, that they didn't come out and just say, oh, we're going to run. The problem was they weren't really any more effective when they went to run the ball. And the game got to a point where there was no reason to run the ball in the second half. So they didn't. And that was the wise thing to do. It wasn't very good. And the games and the game played out in a way that you couldn't really do it anyway.
Yeah.
And when you want to compare it to what they were facing on the other side, it was embarrassing.
Brian?
I thought against the Ravens and with Russell Wilson at quarterback that your best ability was going to be able to set up the pass with the run, and they never could. Now, last week, the biggest problem and the biggest head scratcher, especially if you were sitting in the stands listening to everybody moan, what they were saying is, my gosh, they are 8 of 8 on first down, rushing the football and doing that. So the Steelers go completely away from that at the beginning and also almost make you feel like they're just doing it because that's what everybody's calling for. And then all of a sudden, Baltimore knows exactly what you're doing. But when you pass the ball to Muth on first down and he drops an easy one, that's not Russell Wilson's fault. There's a lot of Russell Wilson fault, but that wasn't Russell Wilson's fault. And then now you run on second down and you get hardly anything. You did go ahead and convert on that first series, which was nice. But
the second play was 9 yards to Mount Washington.
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah, and then Justin Fields came in.
Okay, so maybe it was,
but that you're thinking about what happened after they got a first down.
Okay, after the first down, it was just, there were things that were very odd, and the scheming again was horrendous.
Yeah. All right. We had the good idea.
I was going to say, with the exception of the second play of the game, if it was 2nd and 10, you could almost guarantee it was a run coming.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the passing game. The Steelers receiving core does a lot better. Obviously, they have 270 yards receiving. George Pickens leads the way, 5 catches on 5 targets for 87 yards. He did have a touchdown and a long of 36. Najee Harris had 3 catches for 41 yards. Van Jefferson, 2 for 37 with a touchdown. Mike Williams, 1 catch for 37 yards. Calvin Austin, 1 catch for 25. And then you had Jalen Warren, 4 for 19. Pat Freiermuth, 3 for 15. And Darnell Washington, 1 for 9. Guys, what do you think about the receiving core? Dave, we'll start with you.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. How do you not have Mike Williams out there on 4th and 15 when you're basically might just need to throw a jump ball? That was frustrating. I'm not saying in place of it was Van Jefferson instead. That was frustrating. It seemed like it took a while for them to get to George Pickens in the game when they were throwing the ball. That could have been based on someone's scheme because, like I say, it's often very hard to see exactly what's going on down the field during the TV telecast. But other than Pat Freiermuth dropping the first ball, and I also don't blame Matt Washington for dropping the one on the right before Calvin Austin's 25-yarder when the dude's 6'7" and the ball's thrown 1 foot off the ground.
Yeah,
that was pretty bad. But in all, I also don't. There were times it was good and they made some plays and George Pickens made catches and Mike Williams made catch and Calvin Austin, tough catch over the middle for his one. But they're also pointing out, and they're exactly right, when Russ is breaking the pocket. I mean, Pat Freiermuth on the opposite side, he just kind of stands around. Cut back towards your quarterback and give him more than one option. It just seems like I don't know if they're not coached that way or what, but the receivers kind of give up on routes after a little bit. And when the quarterback's trying to extend the play, I just think back to the Ben Roethlisberger and Hines Ward and Plexico Burress, even his rookie year, and Santonio Holmes more than anything, and how they would work around whenever he would escape the pocket and find a spot. It just seems like that's completely missing from the Steelers offense. So I don't know if that's on the receivers or what. So it's not that they were bad in this game, but there's still things like that you would want to see out of a quality offense.
Brian, what's your take?
I'm wondering how inspired the receivers are with everything that's going on as well. Because Dave just said he noticed some standing around. I don't know how open they were getting, but when they were being thrown to, they were catching balls, with the exception of that Muth drop did not like. But I thought one thing about Pickens, for all the criticism that he's had, I thought he played with a lot of heart today. And at least tonight he did. And I thought he had a good performance. I mean, it's just, I don't know how many targets he had, but there were, I mean, do you count the penalty as a target?
No, because the play gets wiped out.
Yeah, that gets wiped out.
So he was 5 for 5.
Yeah. So the receivers were I don't know how open, because I can't see the all 22 here. Like Dave said, I'm watching it on TV, but there was one where was it Herb Street was saying, look, nobody's open here. And I think another time, nobody's open here. But from what I noticed, I don't think the receivers were the problem in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to fault a receiver unless you're talking about a blatant drop, and I can only think of one, and that was Freiermuth on the first play from scrimmage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they did their job. They did their job. I don't fault receivers, a receiving core that's severely lacking. That's the front office for not putting better players on the roster.
Yeah.
You can't say, well, Van Jefferson, you should be a route runner like so-and-so. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So, all right, let's go to the side of the field that definitely deserves more attention, and that is the defense. So let's talk about Mr. Lamar Jackson. Mr. Jackson, as Mike Tomlin likes to call him. As a passer, he had 16 completions on 21 attempts, 175 yards, and 8.3 average, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 sack with a rating of 132.0. The Steelers quarterback hits, just 1. They had 1 quarterback hit. Then you look at him as a runner. Lamar had 15 carries for 81 yards, 5.4 yard average, and a 20-yard long. So Lamar Jackson had it going on. What did you guys think about the Steelers? Let's just talk about let's just make it simple. Lamar's passing numbers are his passing numbers. The Ravens' rushing numbers. They rushed for 299 yards. Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 186 yards, 7.2 yard average, 2 touchdowns and a 44-yard long. Steven Sims has 1 carry for 15 yards. Justin Hill, 6 for 12. This was a nightmare because they had no answer for anything the Ravens were trying to do. Dave, what's your take?
Yeah, just in a game where the team was missing their best wide receiver, you would think they would really be focused on stopping the run, but they just couldn't get that read option down, where if they were going to give it, or if Lamar was going to hand it to him, or if he was going to keep it. I mean, and then finally, I don't even know what they should have done better. I couldn't even tell you from that. I'm not saying that they did a good job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the Ravens did it very well, but a lot of that is because the Steelers allowed them to look so good doing it. And it just didn't get the job done, wore them down, and there just didn't seem to be a lot of fight in trying to stop it from a lot of, I mean, there were fight from some, but there were plenty that there wasn't.
Brian?
At this point, and I do not compliment Lamar Jackson very often because I abhor this team so much. but that was one of the finest performances at quarterback that I have seen against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a long time. And that was the best Lamar Jackson's ever played against the Steelers. And you throw in the wrinkle that is, and it's not a wrinkle, it's a big ball when you throw in Derrick Henry. But I mean, gosh, Lamar was incredible. They couldn't touch him. They were confused. They couldn't do anything to stop Derrick Henry, like you said. But there was so much space. I mean, there was space all the time. And even if they did get near him, Lamar was just able to step up and get away. There's so many times you're thinking, my gosh, they could possibly get to him here. And then he's become a passing machine as well. I mean, when he only has to throw 21 times and complete 16 of them, but they were beautiful when he did. He was magic out there, and that pains me because he's one of my least favorite players because just don't like the ego every time I watch him play. But it's getting to the point where that ego is justified. He's that damn good.
Yeah, it's tough. And you always tell that the Steelers used to have a plan when they played Lamar Jackson with the read option. It was always hit Lamar, whether he has the ball or not. It's like TJ would come screaming in, and he would, even if he hands it off, hit him. Well, this game, it almost seemed like the plan was, okay, always take the back.
Yeah,
and
it was hit Henry. I mean, that's what TJ Watt was doing all night. Yeah, you're exactly right, Jeff.
When you do that, when the plan is let's take out the running back, someone has to then take the other player, and that's what felt like no one was. There was no one responsible for Lamar Jackson on the backside if he doesn't hand the ball off to his running back. And this goes back to what we've talked about for the majority of the first half of the show: poor preparation, poor coaching, and then also poor execution. So I think that this honestly was a defensive collapse from top to bottom. I swear to you, I'm getting ready to do the winners and losers podcast once we're done here. I've already got a ton of losers. I am struggling to find a winner on either side of the football. I can't even go with the old trusty Chris Boswell because the dude only had 2 extra points. I can't give it to Chris Boswell.
Corliss Waitman.
No. Like, I would rather have 0 than to throw a punter on the winner list. Like, I can't, like, Russell Wilson's numbers aren't awful, but he also got a lot of that. The game was kind of out of reach. George Pickens did okay, but again, it's like, lipstick on a pig. Like, nothing went well. Nothing went well in this game. Yeah. And I can't not say that everything, in my opinion, bleeds back to what the hell were they practicing? What were they watching in film? They looked like they had never seen the Ravens play before, offensively or defensively. I just don't get it. I really don't.
See, here, going back to some of the defense, this is what bothers me. And it's that combination where you said in the first half, oh, it's Mike Tomlin's defense and Terrell. It is, but it isn't. I mean, it is, but Terrell Austin has to do more with it. Keith Butler did more with it.
Yeah.
Keith Butler would dial up some things to actually get pressure on the quarterback and things with that within that defense that they wanted to run. The Steelers haven't been a good, well, let's just say they haven't been an elite pass rushing squad since Butler left. They as a team, they haven't. It's been down. To me, I think what this defense relies on, and it didn't always, I don't feel like it was always this way, especially when Butler was around. That's why I'm saying it is different. Is tonight it basically looked like the Steelers just depend on, we're going to try to amass the best defensive players that we can, and we just want them to win their one-on-one battles. You win your one-on-one battle, and the defense will do a good, and the defense will be good. The problem is you've got 11 guys that have to win their one-on-one battle. If somebody doesn't, you're in trouble. It can't just be that. There has to be more to your defense than just say, we're going to line up. We're going to rush 4 guys in the same lane almost all the time. My goodness, you're not going to see stunts. But I also understand why you don't do that against someone like Lamar Jackson, because a stunt could also open up a lane. But I still don't remember seeing a lot this season anyway, looking at it. And it's just they want their Jimmies to be our Jimmies to be better than their Joes. That our Jimmy's better than their Joes, so the X's and O's don't matter. But to me, that can only take you so far. And honestly, to me, that can only take you to Thanksgiving. And if that's all you're going to rely on, teams are going to figure out what they can do against you, because that's what you're relying on. And then they can scheme up everything better to take care of that. And I think that's why we've seen problems with this team late in the season and into the postseason, is because they just basically try to say our players are better and we're going to let them go out there and play. And they're not being put in the best situations that they can be to succeed.
Fair enough. Brian, want to add anything?
No, I don't.
All right, let's get some super chats here, and then we're going to do our final thoughts, and we'll call it a show and a season. Tyler gives us $4.99, said another run, pass, punt game for this offense. If you told me it was a year ago with Canada in the first half, I'd believe it. I missed the Ben era.
They didn't run it enough to do run, pass, punt. I mean, I think they did one time.
Yeah.
But it was not good enough punt.
Nicholas Gabriel gives us $5. Says anyone with eyes sees we're not winning anytime soon. I hate saying this, but trade TJ and Manko while we have a chance. No point in letting them rot. Yeah. I mean, at this stage, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with even the biggest knee-jerk reactions. Tyler W. gives us $5. Wilson has been figured out. Eagles wrote the book on defense, and the Steelers never scored in the 20s again. That's sad. Here we go. Andrew Wilbar. Fantasy football and NFL draft gives us $2. So there's 35 running backs with draftable grades this year. Let Najee, I think you wanted to say walk.
I didn't pay for enough characters.
Well, I think that the Steelers made that decision. We're going to let him walk when they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. Tyler W. gives us $10. Defense was put in great field position by special teams and no turnovers by the offense. They're soft and allowed 165 yards after contact. Tackling was low effort. Same story as last game, physically overpowered. Wilson Pava gives us
$5. He meant last Ravens game.
Unless he meant the Bengals game. I don't know.
Bengals game, they actually tackled pretty well. But
yeah. Wilson Pava gives us $1.99. Says, winner, SCN and U3, thank you for the vent session. No problem. Thank you for the tip. And the last one here, Nicholas Gabriel, $5. Said, I've only been a fan for 20 crazy, but the dark days are here, and I'm ready for the rebuild, and it's okay. It's what every team has to go through. All right. Let's do some final thoughts here. Dave, we'll start with you.
All right, I had to make sure I wasn't muted. Oh, my goodness. Yes, for those of you that say you want major change, I agree with you. I don't know that we'll see it, but I think I think it's necessary. I really do. And honestly, the Steelers changed more this past year than they had for a while, but we still ended up with the same results. So I really get it. I also want to point out something, okay? It's all about when God intended NFL football to be played. Since the bye week, the Steelers were 4-0 in games played at 1 o'clock on Sundays and 0-6 on everything else. So NFL, thanks a lot. But still, that has nothing to do with it. The Steelers just have to be better than that. And I don't know if it's that the players didn't believe or what, but I was just surprised how some of them didn't have a lot of fight with them. And I thought, if anything, that this team, I mean, Jeff had me ready to run through a wall after hearing his miracle speech at the end of the Steelers preview. And I'm just like, let's go get to it. And maybe I think that shows a lot as well. Everyone has an opinion of what could make this team better. I don't know what needs to be different. that would exactly make this better. If I believed that the Steelers were a head coach away from winning the Super Bowl, that with a good head coach, that this roster would be a Super Bowl winning roster, I would lead the charge to say, come on, we've got it, regardless of how the Steelers do business. But it's even more than that. They've got to make changes. They've got to make a lot of changes. And at this point, I don't know. There might be some changes that I think that would be great, that would be terrible, and ones that I don't think that would be that great, that would be fantastic. I don't know. But bottom line is, please change something. We've got 7 months now that we have to deal with not having Steelers football on the field for us to watch. It would be very, very nice to see things that are different and not just. I would rather the Steelers have that down season as they try to rebuild and then really have something different than to continue to see the 10-7 one and done. I've hasn't been that way in the past, but that's where I've reached now, that if it takes a season of just not being there, then that would still be different enough for me to then have some hope. Because right now we really are just stuck in the muddy middle of the NFL with really not much hope of getting better and really not much hope with, of being too good to fall off completely. So change it up. And if it doesn't work, build from there.
All right, Brian, final thoughts?
All right, so I don't drink, but there's a bottle of rum out there waiting for me. I will tell you this. The next big event for me is probably a couple of weeks watching the Royal Rumble. And so I'm thinking about the Royal Rumble here, and I'm thinking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, if you ever watch professional wrestling, right now the Pittsburgh Steelers are nothing but glorified mid-carders. They're good for a week or two to say, hey, they're contenders, but when it comes down to it, no one's putting the belt on them because they are not putting themselves in position to get the belt put on them. And that's what's happening right now. I have been a fan. I have been called an apologist of Mike Tomlin for a long, long time. And in a way I have. And I also see it in the live chat where we haven't called out Mike Tomlin. I feel like we have. In this last hour, we've definitely called out Mike Tomlin here. And right now at this point is, if I have to sit through another playoff exit with having false hope, I would rather see 3-14 and watch a complete rebuild. And I would gladly pay 3 or 4 years at this point to 3 or 4 years of rough football to get back to something good, where this franchise in the last 50 years now is used to being that damn good. So let's get back to it. And I'm all for thank you for what you've done for us, but I'm also now thinking about Janet Jackson in 1986, asking, what have you done for me lately? And right now, lately has sucked. And I think I'm done. And for me, it's a lot of you that have been around me for a long time are probably shocked because I'm the last one to jump off that bandwagon. But when the bandwagons go into the same place, playoffs and exit, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, there's nothing fun about this. And my final thoughts are simple. It's rinse and repeat. And so I'll tell you a little preview of the winners and losers. One of the losers tomorrow are the fans like myself who we're just as equal part of the toxic relationship as the Steelers are. We're the ones that think every year is going to be different, and it's not. It's the same thing over and over again. What needs to change? I don't know. I'm going to let the dust settle on this and try to do my own internal evaluation. And I'm more looking at the roster. I have no say in anything. I just like to look at the players and who's on the field and what's going to be coming up. And we're going to be with you every step of the way, as I always say that, at the Steel Curtain Network. Check us out, steelcurtainnetwork.com. The podcasts are not going to stop. We're going to keep doing our job because we love this team. We love the fan base. We know you all rely on us for your Steelers coverage, and we're not going to let you down. So keep that in the back of your mind. I want to thank Dave and Brian for a successful 2024 season, regardless of how the Steelers did, we did a phenomenal job at Steel Curtain Network. We continue to grow. I thank you both for that, and thank you for your time and dedication.
Thank you all out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Taking this in. You all were great. We're here for you. Sorry if sometimes we lose it one way or another. We're not perfect. We're fans just like you all, but you all is what make this possible, that this can carry on.
We aren't here if there's no you.
Yep.
That's absolutely true. Accurate. So we're going to keep growing. It's a grassroots movement. So if you know a Steeler fan in your life and they've never heard of us before, send them links their way. SteelCurtainNetwork.com. Send them the podcast, the audio feed, the YouTube channel, all of it. We all appreciate it. But that does it for us. It puts a bow on a crap-filled finish to the season of 2024. We'll be back with the Steelers preview next week to talk about the offseason. In the meantime, thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.